Hi, my name is Rachel M. Hopkins and welcome to another episode of Spin Weekly. Today we are discussing how to spin roving. I have a pretty popular how to spin rologs video, and generally I try to be pretty advanced and creative and cool and edgy, but tons of people always ask me how do I do the basics, because I have kind of a quirky perspective on everything. So how I spin the basics may be different from how you do it or how you are taught or how you were seeing it in other places. So this is pretty straightforward. I'm going to hop into the footage and the voiceover and meet you back when I'm finished. Alright, so this is Moonstone Roving. It is a silk luxury fiber blend by Classy Squid. I don't really remember what the other fiber is besides silk. But here I'm demonstrating that if you don't like that funky end, you can just pull a piece off and then start from that pretty fluffy bit. So that's what I'm doing here, is just starting off and doing the first roving technique. Evidently, I'm trying to figure out my bobbin. So the first technique is you just spin across the top. I find this is easiest to do if you take a hunk off of the main roving and work with a small piece. I'm not as likely to lose a hold of my fiber and then get like a super giant slub or a teeny weeny spot. So basically how I do this is I do a short forward draw while gently holding on to the fiber, and then I will, like I just did, rotate and pull my supply hand as needed to get a really good sampling across the top. So another way you can do this is kind of open up those fibers a little bit more so they're spread out, so then you can have more control that way. However, I personally feel that this is a surrendering of control. But as you spin this, you're gonna get fiber color placement, I guess, that matches the way it is on the fiber better. However, the fiber has a natural fault line, and I just tore across one of those fault lines. And if you do that, then you get smaller blips of color. But for me, I think a huge benefit is you can control it a lot easier. You can keep it similar to how it is in the roving if you strip down like a long strip that's kind of wide. Then you get shorter repeats of the color, but they're not tiny like speckles. The further you strip the fiber down, so the smaller amount of fiber per color, the tinier the blip of color is going to be on the yarn. So the next way I do it is pre-drafting, which I kind of like to think of as the watercolor method, because the fibers misalign in an irregular fashion. So that way you get a lot of watercolory blending that's very organic, because you didn't do it necessarily fiber by fiber. That would be impossible. The fiber slides where it wants to, but it doesn't completely displace the color, especially if you spin across the top still. So that is a full piece of fiber. I didn't split it across any of the fault lines, and then I just drafted it. So you can kind of see in the yarn, it's got some barber pulling, but it's very soft, and I really love that effect, because once it's plied especially, or knit, or pretty much any way you use it, it's going to be super flowy, and it's not going to read as a barber pull, but more of a marling, because there's so many different variations of shade. So you can see even in that one draft zone how many colors you're going to get. Alright, so I'm just going to continue to spin like this for a while. A lot of you have talked to me and requested some more long format talking videos. So I've actually recorded this voiceover once before, and I found it to be somewhat difficult to fill up some of the space with my observations, because another one of your requests is to slow down the videos. I was doing them kind of ×8, but I am not going to do that anymore. One of the reasons I did that is because I was trying to sort of not play the YouTube game necessarily, but I didn't want to not appeal to the algorithms. But here on Patreon, your word is law. So if you guys want slow videos, then that's what you get, because you guys are the ones who call the shots around here, for the most part. Obviously, if you told me you wanted me to spin like a dead cat, I would not do that. But yeah, anyhow, so now I'm going to attach on the fiber from the braid, just to show you that you can do this. But if you can see, I'm still holding on to the fiber pretty close to my drafting zone. And I don't know if you can tell, but I find it to be awkward to hold it that way. I just feel like there's a lot of control that I'm giving up. So I cut it off pretty fast. And again, I cut it from a fault line. I find that if you cut along a fault line, it goes so much better. Your fiber is much neater because it just naturally separates. But if you try and pull in between those fault lines, it can get frizzy, especially with luxury blends. And that's kind of obnoxious. So this is sort of my main fiber hybrid spinning, this short forward draw, and then it's hard to describe this because I'm a completely self-taught spinner, so some of these terms I don't know because I never looked at them. But kind of where you hold your fiber and then let it slip through your fingers without doing any kind of like active drafting, that combined with this that I'm doing now is going to be kind of a modified long draw where I go close to the orifice and then I do that like still no active drafting. I'm letting the fiber twist do all of the work. In and out and in and out. That's definitely my go-to trio. Anytime you watch my videos, you're going to see me switching back and forth between those three techniques. I spin slightly differently when I do bats or rollags. So this is pretty much almost exclusively for roving. So that's my roving spinning technique in a nutshell, is a combination between those three. You can tell with my videography that I'm really digging this little polywog. Do you see how in love I am with all the little mechanisms? So I thought I'd throw those in there so you too could enjoy the little quirks that this wheel has to offer. It's such a technological masterpiece. I'm actually in the process of becoming a dealer for them because I love them so much. Anyhow, so you can see again, I'm working with a stripped off piece of fiber, and I love this in and out technique, I guess. I think it's a modified long draw. I think that's the fancy fiber person way of saying it. But I like it because you can use it with pre-drafted or non-pre-drafted roving pieces, where some of the other ones work better with one or the other, in my experience. Also, a fun fact, I am right-handed and I spin left-hand dominant, which is interesting to me. So let me know in the comments if you also are dominant in spinning with the opposite hand that you're dominant in with like regular life. I also want to know, what are you guys interested in seeing? My next video is going to be a short little video on how I ply yarn. I also have a copy of this video which is set to music, so that way you can enjoy all of the little spinniness without my talking. I know a lot of people use it for anxiety or putting themselves to sleep. I actually watch soap videos to do that, so I understand. So, and I'm gonna aim to do that with all of my videos, to have a talking video and a short and sweet music video. So let me know what topics you want and what kind of music you prefer and what you want me to talk about, if you want me to like shut up, if you want me to go faster or slower. Really, there's tons of new people here on Patreon, so I really want to kind of reassess again what you guys are interested in. I have a fairly good idea, but of course it's always good to touch base. So here I'm demonstrating this sort of modified long draw with a pre-drafted piece. I find that this is a little trickier and I have to work that front hand, my drafting hand, a little bit more than I would prefer, just to make sure it doesn't slip away completely. And then once I got like the short forward draft front hand and the modified long draw backhand going on. If you see me doing that, I feel like that is Danger Will Robinson and that Path Lies Madness, and I try to avoid that because then I'm trying to do too many things with two hands. But sometimes I do get a little off the rails there. It keeps things exciting. Also, I never spin for continual what is the word I'm going for? Smoothness. I like that slight lumpy bumpy. And we're getting close to the end here. So I am going to also throw out that I have been spinning thin because I feel that it is a longer canvas for my color work. That's a question I get fairly frequently. Why do I spin thin over thick now, where I started thick? But I'd like to go back to playing with some more thicker yarns and focus on technique over color work. So let me know what you think of that. Alright, so I hope you learned something, and I am super curious to know how this is different from how you do it, how you think it might be beneficial to you, or what you didn't think was going to be beneficial. If you're like, what the heck are you even doing? I want to learn something too, like, share the knowledge. This is a knowledge sharing experience and space. Lastly, thank you so much for being a Patreon patron. You guys are thebomb.com, and as always, if you have any questions or suggestions for future videos, leave them in the comment section down below, and I will see you next time.